Thanks for joining me on Tropical Weather Impact. It's Wednesday, August the 6th here. Meteorologist Payton Malone in New Orleans. We're going to be talking about the tropics as they've been trying to wake up. I will be honest with you, the stress level with what's going on out there right now is very low. We'll talk about why that is. And we'll also be discussing maybe some longer term things that maybe we need to keep a closer eye on, but we fortunately have plenty of time to watch things. And so that's the good news. Oftentimes during hurricane season, you do have oftentimes a long time to watch some of these features, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing with a few of these. So let's start with an overview. We've got our still three areas the National Hurricane Center is tracking. Dexter, the storm that could, it is still a tropical storm this morning and lifting out to the northeast. It will eventually do that transition, but still a storm. And then the two other areas being monitored by the Hurricane Center. Some slight adjustments with a couple of these. There are some new trends here we're going to be talking about, and the stress level with both of these, especially for the Gulf, is extremely low right now, and even the East Coast not terribly stressed about this feature either, and we'll talk about that why that is coming up in just a bit. Now our percentages have adjusted some. They have bumped up the chance of development on this feature way out in the tropics to 60% in the next 7 days. So we think there's a chance, a decent chance something tries to form, but the trends have been more out to sea. Now there are still some trends where you got to watch it, but really they have been the friend of the U.S. here, that many of these now take it out to sea, and then you still have this feature, but instead of moving inland here, it may go out to sea as well, and so that would be great news. So let's start with this, that it's nearest to the United States, off the coast of the Carolinas. It's really far off the coast by hundreds of miles. That's the feature they're going to be watching. Now, at the moment, there's nothing organized about this for our Wednesday morning. There is hardly any showers or storms near this disturbance. We do think over the next few days, though, those storms kind of pulsing up and down could eventually create a low pressure, and then eventually that low pressure tries to form similar to what Dexter did. Now, similar to Dexter as well, instead of moving inland here and getting trapped under the ridge, it looks like, well, it may ride around the edge of a ridge and go out to sea. That means it would skirt the Carolinas by this weekend, but it probably wouldn't directly move inland and make landfall there as a tropical storm. And so, again, the stress level with this, I wouldn't say is very great. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be great beach weather. You're still going to have plenty of tropical moisture and rains in the Carolinas and the coastal areas, but again, it's looking okay or manageable at this point. Also, we've been talking about this feature here, not highlighted by the Hurricane Center. It's this area of tropical moisture that's spinning near the Bahamas and Cuba this morning. That moisture, it is riding around a ridge. There's a ridge of high pressure centered in here. It's going to get trapped underneath it and get pulled up into the Gulf by this weekend. Now, models are not excited about that feature either. And so while moisture may be traveling here, I'm not stressing too much about that. Now, we watch these things closely. We don't want them to sneak up on anybody, but I think we're doing okay right now with watching that feature and where we stand. So here is PrecisionCast showing the feature off the East Coast here. There's the tropical moisture closer to the Bahamas. We put it in motion, and you can see that you don't see anything rapidly trying to form here over the next couple of days. You've got this broad area of spin trying to form, and you can see as you put it in motion, eventually you get a little spin in here and it's all pulling out into the Atlantic. Now, you do still have coastal areas of showers and storms, but that's tied to tropical moisture, and hey, it's summertime. You're going to get the pop-up storm. So that thing right there, while we may see something spin up, we really do think it's probably going to travel more towards the Atlantic side and stay just off coast here. Now, this piece of moisture here is the one we're going to follow as we head towards the weekend and early next week. Doesn't look like it's in the right and perfect setup to develop, but we'll watch the moisture try to move. And here we are Friday, here we are Saturday. There's the moisture kind of stretched out, not organized. Heading into Sunday, heading into Monday, that moisture trying to build across the northern Gulf and across the western Gulf here, and then eventually it'll push towards the west. And so that's what we're going to watch with that piece of moisture here. Now, looking further out, this is the feature that models a couple of days ago were extremely split. You had the European models going out to sea. You had the GFS American models taking a much different route and actually throwing a hurricane at the U.S. by next week. That seems to be less and less likely at this point based on the data that we are seeing. And I'll explain why in just a second, thanks to a tiny upper level low that's maybe just enough to pull this thing out to sea and keep it from being a problem for the United States. And so as we look at our GFS and Euro models, this is looking at the spin in the atmosphere. they're showing you've got this unorganized area of showers and storms, which we do have right now. They're locking onto the piece right in there, trying to form in the next couple of days, or really towards the end of this week. So you can see as we go through this weekend, here we are Saturday, this thing is still way far out there. Just to put it in perspective, we'll put a measure on this to show you it's not even close to anybody. It's over 1,000 miles away from Puerto Rico. It's over 2,000 miles away from Miami, and it's over nearly 3,000 miles away from New Orleans. So again, this is not going to be a problem for anybody, even through this weekend or early next week, and it may never be a problem for anybody at all. So here we are Saturday. Let's fast forward into the Sunday and Monday. Do you see what the models do? They go from being in agreement to, well, you start to see some separation. So this is next Monday. You have the European model showing some type of system, whether it be a named storm or not, in the central part of the Atlantic. You have the GFS in red showing a system still out in the central Atlantic, just a little bit further off to the east. Now, if you looked at this yesterday, the GFS was down here, the European was over here, and they were extremely split. So we are starting to see, I would say, the GFS model cave to the European model. Now, these are just single model runs, but when you look at the ensembles, that's when we take this one model run and run it 51 different times and get 51 different scenarios. Many of the scenarios are starting to do that turn. Nearly all the European models do that turn, but nearly all the GFS are starting to do some type of turn. Some do bring it a little bit closer, others bring it way out into sea. So we're watching that trend here, and we want that trend to continue. Now, again, nothing is really locked in until you actually have a storm that has formed, and we're tracking an actual storm, and models are tracking it itself. So right now, it's doing a lot of guesswork here, but we can notice all these overall trends here, and so far they are our friends. You can see they're still pretty far off once we get towards next Wednesday, but things are at least what we like to see at this point when we're watching these model runs. So why are we looking at this potential for it to make that turn? Well, let's identify what's happening with the steering currents. This is right now on our Wednesday, August the 6th. You've got this ridge of high pressure. It's fairly strong across the U.S. here, and that's the feature right now. And so the ridge is not there right now, and that's why it's going to be moving northwest for the time being. Now, the GFS yesterday, when it was traveling closer to the U.S., it did not have this strong upper level low right here, as strong as it is. That's an upper level low sitting 30, 40,000 feet up in the atmosphere. That is enough to help tug this disturbance, you see it right there, help tug it to the north. And so its interaction with that upper level low is, I think, why the GFS is starting to correct. It's starting to get pulled to the north by that upper level low. Now, when you look at the European model, this is the GFS I'm showing, but when you look at the European, it has that upper level low a little bit stronger, and that's why the European model pulls this thing even quicker out to sea. And so that's the helper right there. We want that upper level low to be there by this weekend and by early next week, because when we go out in time, you can see here we are next Monday and Tuesday. You've still got this, that's what's left of the upper level low. Here's a little trough digging down. If it can feel enough of that trough coming down, then it gets yanked to the north and it stays out to sea. Now, Bermuda may want to keep an eye on that, but that's our saving grace. Now, there's a couple things that could go wrong with this, and this system does actually try to get a little bit further west, and it has to do with not only the upper level low, but the strength of this ridge. If it stays a little too far south, if it's too weak, it doesn't feel those upper level winds maybe as much, and you have some of that low level spin, low level moisture get trapped under that ridge, and then that's when you can run into, well, uh-oh, this thing may be something to watch. But we just got to see how organized it is. Does this thing actually organize? How strong does it get? Does it just stay weak and unorganized here? These are all questions that are hard to answer when it hasn't done any of that yet. And so that'll be a big thing we're watching, is just how much that upper level low interacts with it, pulls it to the north. Also, how strong is the ridge once it actually gets in that part of the Atlantic? That would be next Tuesday and Wednesday, so about a week from now. And that's good, because that means we have a solid week to watch and see how this thing unfolds. And so this thing is not going to be doing anything in a hurry. Now, what's interesting is this thing maybe just be a precursor for what's coming through the second and third weeks of August. When you look at the ensemble model runs, again, those are the model runs where we have 51 different scenarios. They do show the Atlantic really starting to wake up, and by the second and third weeks of August, maybe we do have some entities or some tropical systems closer to land. And so while that one lifts out, you could see models showing there could be more tropical waves rolling off the continent of Africa. Those could eventually travel further west, et cetera, be something to watch in the long term. When we look at the Climate Prediction Center, they are highlighting these areas for potential development in the next 2 to 3 weeks. They are showing that there is a heightened chance of maybe tropical development in this area through the 2nd and 3rd weeks of August. This is not surprising. I could probably show you this for next August and the August beyond that, and we're talking 2030 August. This general zone is the hot spots we watch as we head through August and especially into September. But with all these tropical waves rolling off the continent of Africa, we've got an active monsoon trough here, the intertropical convergence zone, all that tied together. The Atlantic basin is starting to become less hostile for storms. Now, we just take this day by day and week by week to actually see if the models are correct. Is the Atlantic really going to wake up? Is it going to be hospitable? We think there are some signs that it certainly could, but we're still in that wait and watch phase at this point. So again, to overall summarize all that, the stress level with all this is extremely low right now. I don't think we're going to have any significant problems in the U.S. the rest of this week or even through big part of next week. These things are just so far out here. We're just sitting back, we're tracking them, we're keeping an eye on them, and we'll let you know should that change. But for now, we're just stuck in our summertime routine here on the Northern Gulf. Thanks so much for joining me on this tropical weather impact. We'll do it right here at the same time, same place tomorrow.